From the historic Mack Sennett Studios in Silver Lake, California, it's Rough Draft with Reza Aslan. Tonight, we have Emmy-winning writer Jill Soloway and musical guest, local natives. Ladies and gentlemen, please give an enthusiastic round of applause for Reza Aslan.
All right. Okay. Hello, Silver Lake. Thank you. Welcome to Rough Draft. I'm your host, Reza Aslan. We bring the best authors, poets, screenwriters, songwriters, journalists to the historic Mack Sennett Studios for a lively conversation about writing and the writer's life. Tonight, we have Golden Globe winning writer, producer, director, Jill Soloway is here. Yeah. Jill launched her writing career with a popular short story called Courtney Cox's Asshole, which from what I understand is a story about Courtney Cox's asshole. That success led to a writing gig on the HBO show 6 Feet Under. And then from there, she went on to write for a host of other TV shows, including The United States of Terror, How to Make It in America, Dirty Sexy Money, and so on. Jill is also a novelist and a memoirist, but of course, she is most famous as the creator of one of the most popular, most talked about shows, not on TV, it's on Amazon, sorry TV, called Transparent. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody's favorite show. Everybody's favorite show. For those of you who are not fans of Transparent, and by the way, if you live in LA, you are by law obligated to be a fan of Transparent. It's a show about a family whose patriarch undergoes a transition from male to female rather late in life. You may not know this, but the show is actually based somewhat loosely on Jill's own life. She too had a father who transitioned rather late in life, and that got us thinking at Rough Draft about one of the oldest adages in writing, which is write what you know. Write what you know. You hear this all the time. I tell this to my students all the time. Write what you know. Of course, they're in college, so they don't know shit. But the only thing they know is themselves, which is why everything they write reads like a diary entry. But there is something to this. There is actually something to this. If you want to make compelling three-dimensional characters, you should start with yourself, the person that you know best. Good writing is ultimately about transforming your unique experiences into universal emotions. And that's precisely what Jill has done. Transparent is, more than anything else, a show about family, something we all have. It's a show about empathy, something that we all struggle with. And it's those universal emotions, much more so than Jill's unique experience, that has drawn so many people to the show and to Jill's writing. It's a beautiful thing, and we're going to talk about it tonight. So, please welcome to the Rough Draft stage, Jill Soloway. All right.
All right.
Welcome.
I'm gonna fix my microphone.
How fun is this?
It's crazy.
How does it feel to be like the hippest person in Silver Lake?
Do you think that I really am?
I think you're the hippest person. Everybody is like, everybody loves you. The staff here was so giddy when they found out you were coming here. This is so much fun, right? It's so much better to write your own stuff instead of other people's stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
And you've actually have kind of a unique way of doing it, right? You have a much more feminine approach to the writer's room, which I assume means everything is pink. Is that what that means? Yeah?
Pink, and it smells like tampons. This is something I learned from Alan Ball on 6 Feet Under. We sat around the writer's room table and we let the Fishers reveal themselves to us. He really taught us how to conjure up the family of the Fishers. So we do the same thing with the writers. You know, we're all tuning into the characters. We try to hear them having moments and conversations and arguments, and they tell us what they want.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a seance.
Right.
And so it's a conjuring of these souls that we consider totally real. You know, the Pfefferman family seems like a totally real family.
Well, but it is also kind of a real family, right? It's sort of your family.
Yeah, you know, so I come from a Jewish family. My mom, who's here.
Yes.
She's like Shelley in some ways in that she had a husband who suffered from frontotemporal dementia and lost the ability to speak. My sister Faith is here.
Faith, also a writer on the show?
Yes, she's a writer on the show.
You must get this all the time when people ask you, like, who are you most like? Which of
Yes.
the Pfefferman kids are you most like?
I think all of them, but yeah, so there's Sarah and Allie who sometimes, they're both a little bit of me and Faith. I'm a little Allie, I'm a little Sarah, Faith's a little Sarah, Faith's a little Allie. And then, yeah, Josh is really both of us too. I relate to Josh a lot.
I talked a little bit about this whole, you know, what it means to kind of mine your unique experiences.
Yeah.
And this is something that you've had an enormous amount of success with. But I wonder if you feel as though those kinds of personal experiences, what role do they play in creating these kinds of dynamic storylines, for you at least?
Yeah, I mean, it has to feel real. It has to feel real. So when we're in the writer's room and we're thinking about a beat or a moment, we have to feel that we've all lived these moments. They have to resonate. So yeah, I think I'm always trying to just make sure that I've felt a feeling before. It doesn't have to be exactly the same plot, but story-wise, you know, I didn't have sex with 2 black guys like Allie did.
But you would like to.
But I was certainly in my 20s or, you know, early 30s, you know, doing things to try to, you know, disassociate from real life and not want to grow up.
But I feel like there's some pitfalls there too. I mean, it's a little bit like coming out of the closet, right? You're making yourself very vulnerable.
Yeah.
You're opening yourself up to judgment. And in this particular case, of course, at the heart of your story
Yes.
is this transition experience
Yeah.
that, you know, your father and that Jeffrey Tambor in the show have.
So in terms of the trans education, we would use the word parent instead
For
of
your
dad.
parent, yes.
There
Thank
you go, Reza.
Thank you. I'm learning. I'm like everybody
No
else.
problem.
I'm learning. Do people feel as though you owe them something? Do you feel responsible for the trans community in some way?
A little awkward because I'm not trans. I'm the child of a trans person, yet I've been sort of handed the mantle of having one of the most public portrayals of trans people, and of course I want to get it right. We all want to get it right.
But you have like a whole host of
We
advisors,
have
right?
30,000 trans advisors.
30,000 trans advisors, exactly, you're right. Everyone's got an opinion.
Yes. No, we have, you know, we have 3 different producers who are trans who are weighing in on the scripts. And then we have a writer this year who, she's trans, so it's exciting to have somebody who's trans in the writer's room.
I mean, do you remember a while ago when Joe Biden went on Meet the Press and said that the biggest influence in the way that Americans change their views about gays and lesbians in this country was, what was that show called?
Will and Grace.
Will and Grace, that's
Yeah.
it, Will and Grace. And of course, everybody made fun of him. They were like, oh my God, it's Joe Biden again. Except he was right,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
You know, there was a while right after the show came out that a lot of Jewish people had also just done the high holidays with their families. And it was really a topic of conversation around, like, multi-generational Jewish families, people coming up to me and telling me that, like, their parents now really sort of wanted to meet their trans friends. And then there are a lot of people who come up to me and tell me that they came out by asking somebody in their family to watch the show.
That's
which is so
amazing.
cool, yeah.
But doesn't that create a lot of pressure on you as well? I mean, it's nice, but
Not
don't
until
you
you
feel...
said something.
Yeah, now it does,
Now I
doesn't
feel
it?
frightened and scared. You know, we owe something to the trans community. In many ways, that's a relief. You know, that's a relief. I think, you know, with the Golden Globes, for example, when I was thinking about what will I do if I win, I knew that with the entire trans community on the entire planet needing a voice, that I didn't have the luxury to go up there and go, oh my God, I didn't think I would win, so I didn't prepare anything. Like, I knew, okay, I've got 30 seconds, and if I have those 30 seconds, I want to be articulate and I want to speak for all the people who haven't had this kind of platform.
And you did.
So,
it was
oh,
remarkable.
Thank you.
It really was a remarkable moment. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
I heard your restrooms on set are gender neutral.
Yeah, we definitely did that. That was cool. I was talking to like the sound guy while he was peeing. Guys don't talk to each other when they pee, I found out.
Yeah.
No.
So you went in, you were like, let's talk.
Well, we were talking in the hallway. So,
okay.
Yeah, we kept the conversation
And you didn't realize the
going.
barrier went up when you went into the bathroom?
No, I didn't know that. When we had our first table read, you know, I was able to say, like, this really isn't about trying to make the best show or make the most money. What we were trying to do is literally make the world safer for my parent in Chicago to walk out of their apartment building, to literally try to just move the globe just this much so that they won't be misgendered, they won't be made fun of, they won't be bullied, they won't be called out. You know, trans people have a really hard time just walking down the street.
Well, just this year alone, 6 trans people have been killed in this country, and the majority of them by their own family members, by their own loved ones.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, this is a half-hour comedy, right? So how do you deal with something so heavy as that while at the same time, you know, making jokes?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. What do? We try to create a world where it's kind of like the cool kids table, to know the language, to be trans, to be cool with being trans, to have trans friends, so that people who are watching the show want to go like, oh, I want to be able to sit at the cool kids table, so what is it that I need to know? You know, I need to know what the word cis means. I need to know what genderqueer means. I need to know the difference between cross-dressers and trans women. We try to just normalize transness so that, you know, Maura feels like the most, you know, the straight man, for lack of a better phrase.
And isn't that the power of TV? I mean, it really does have the ability to reframe people's perceptions, because once you sort of get to know someone, it's hard to see them as other.
Yes. I think I read something that Ava DuVernay wrote where she was talking about her movie Middle of Nowhere and the simple act of privileging the other by placing the other in the protagonist's seat. And, you know, people are so used to being otherized by the sort of traditional white male narrative. So women, people of color, trans people. So just placing these people who would normally be otherized into the center of the action and letting them be their own protagonists is a little bit of a revolution.
For me, the thing that I really, I think, gravitate towards is the Jewiness of the show. It's so Jewy. If it were any more Jewy, there'd be a sandwich named after it at Cantor's Deli.
We need that.
That's how Jewy it is.
A delicious pfefferminт on rye.
And this is something why does that not exist? This is something that is deliberate for you, right? I mean, this is very much a part of your identity.
Yeah.
It's very much part, even though growing up you didn't really feel like a Jew.
I felt like a Jew. We didn't really do anything religious. You know, we did the traditions, but there was no real spiritual connection. Sorry, Mom, you guys effed up.
They blew it for you.
You know, I love the way the Pfeffermints are struggling with their inheritance.
Yeah.
Their genderqueer inheritance as well as their Jewy inheritance.
What did you think when you first read the script or were presented with it?
That she's a genius. It really is her vision, and I've never met an artist who I feel like is so good at collaborating and so in charge at the same time. It is such an odd balance. Like,
She's saying I'm very odd.
yes, she's very odd.
Wait till you hear what you're doing this season.
Can we talk about women? Can we talk about women? Yeah?
Sure.
You're a woman?
Apparently.
I'm told, yeah. You're an unapologetic
I'm an outspoken feminist activist.
Absolutely, yeah.
We are trying to topple the patriarchy minute to minute.
You want to switch seats?
Yes.
No.
Just fall out of it.
You are in an industry that is run by men. So 16% of all producers, directors, writers, showrunners, 16% are women. And by the way, that number is the lowest it's been since 1998. So it's actually getting smaller.
Okay, it's because patriarchy is about to go down and people are freaking.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
It's
We're
the
near
last
the end.
gasp?
Yes.
Yeah.
Things are about to get better.
Well, what does it require? What does it mean?
Okay,
I mean,
so
what do you need?
I'm so glad you asked. This is what's happening. It actually is starting to be valued to have content that's created by women. I think people are looking around and going like, oh, actually stuff that women create is funnier. The Golden Globes is better when it's hosted by Amy and Tina because of the way that they can complement each other. I can't wait to can see the all-female Ghostbusters. Thank God. And I was talking about this with some people today about what we're doing at Transparent. We actually have like a really feminine style of directing and creating.
What does that mean?
It means that we're privileging the emotions and we're not privileging the equipment. What is worse for somebody who's trying to be in a feeling than like yelling out like, okay, last looks, everybody quiet, and action. So we get them to feel something first and to feel like it's real, and then we'll go sort of get the camera rolling and get the sound rolling, and maybe we'll tail slate it.
What do you think it's going to take to swing the pendulum? I mean,
That's a very patriarchal thing to say. It's swing the pendulum.
I mean, is it going to take more female showrunners? Is it going to take more female execs, more female studio heads?
Actually, people do need to be called out and told to hire more women. I mean, I used to say, well, men don't know. They're not doing it on purpose. I'm starting to think they're doing it on purpose. Because I'm realizing that actually giving up privilege, the privilege of the protagonist, is really frightening to let go of. It's really scary to be the other. It's really scary to be seen. We do this thing sometimes in the writer's room where we pitch something really insane, where we pretend it's Entertainment Tonight, and we go, dun, 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 dun. Well, that was fast. Golden Globe nominees have stunk up the joint in season 2.
Okay, so we always end our episodes of Rough Draft with what we like to call the 5 questions.
Oh, gosh, okay.
Yeah, so you ready?
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Gosh, okay.
What is your favorite book?
You know, I always go back to the first book I loved as a kid. It was Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, a Judy Blume book.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I read that book and I was like, oh, my own voice is a voice. Like I can have a voice.
And what are you reading now?
Let's see, Rebecca Solnit's book, Men Explain Things to Me. That's an amazing book. She's a great essayist.
What is your writing process?
I always tell writers to protect their process. That's my process, is to know your process and protect it. So for me, it's getting up really early and writing from like 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then stopping. It's really important to stop writing after a few hours and then go out and live your life and let your unconscious become this kind of fishing net where you can gather ideas. I think when people beat themselves up by thinking that they should be writing all day, they do as much of a disservice as not writing.
What's the best advice you've ever gotten as a writer?
I did have an agent once who told me writers write. Meaning, like, if you have something and you wrote it last year and you haven't written anything new, write.
Writers write.
Writers write.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then what's the best advice that you could give to a struggling or emerging writer?
You know, I think people really need to make stuff. I spent a good long time really talking about what kinds of shows I wanted to make. And I realized, like, oh, I have to make it. And so in making it, I got to figure out what was working, what wasn't working. I had to learn whether or not I knew what I was doing. And, you know, that first step was going, okay, my friend is a cinematographer, and my other friend has an apartment, and my 2 friends are actors. I'm gonna bring them to the room and turn on the camera and shoot something that actually costs no money. Okay, you have to pay $100 to a sound guy. It costs $100.
They'll work for a bucket of chicken, I find.
Yeah, you don't need anything
Just
except
do it.
for the willingness to do it, so yeah.
That's great advice. Ladies and gentlemen, Jill Soloway. And now, welcome our special musical guest, Silver Lake's own local native.
I read that you were the only Jewish girl who grew up in an all-black school. Well, I was wondering how that shaped you as a person.
I think we just thought like that most people were black and that there were a few white people, but we didn't think it was weird. I think it made me feel comfortable in the role of the outsider, I guess, and feel comfortable speaking from that perspective.